video tutorial, I will explain the concept of atomic emission spectra and how they are produced when electrons release energy in excited atoms. Before we begin, usually an element is hit with an amount of energy in the gaseous state. So when a light is directed to an atom, this atom, the light in form of energy, this atom, the electrons of this atom, will absorb this energy. And then upon absorbing this energy, they become excited. And I mean by this, the electron will move to a higher energy level. Could be the next level or the one after or the one after. However, the electron cannot stay for a long time in the excited state. So eventually, this electron will release this gained energy and go back to its own ground state. Upon emitting this amount of energy that it already absorbed, a color or a light, or what we call a photon. And when I say photon, I mean by this a colored light is emitted. So when we do this repeatedly to a certain atom, this will result in obtaining an emission spectra. You see here, these are the emission lines of the electrons of the atom of hydrogen when the electrons of hydrogen are excited and go back to their ground state. So upon coming back, it depends on from which energy level this electron is coming back, a certain line will be produced. A certain line, and I mean by this also a certain color. Spectrum, which is this one or this one, is the pattern formed when light emitted by an element is separated into different wavelengths it contains. So again, this electron, which is in the excited state, when it's coming back to its ground state, it will emit light. And when I say light is a wave. So the wave will have a certain wavelength. So depending on from which level it is coming, the wavelength will have a value. And this value will determine the color of that light emitted. Now, if we look at these two figures over here, a continuous spectrum is the light emitted when we have the light coming from a light bulb. When we are directing the light bulb into a prism, so the input or the color of lights that come are all the colors of the visible light. The visible light, I mean by this the light that our eyes are designed to see. Whereas if I have a light directed to a hydrogen lamp, it means a lamp containing atoms of hydrogen, the electrons in the hydrogen will be excited. So they will move to higher levels, could be to level 2, level 3, level 4, depending on those electrons and the amount of energy that they will gain. However, as I mentioned, those electrons will not stay in the excited state. They will have to, again, go back to their lower level. And by coming back to their lower level, they will emit light, what we call a photon. And when I say photon, it's a wave. So it has a wavelength. The size of this wavelength or the size of this wavelength will determine the color that you see on the emission lines.